Welcome in, everybody, to a breaking news edition of Football 24/7 here on JAKIB Sports. The Eagles make a Football Friday move, and Bryce Huff has officially been traded. Well, not official yet, but it'll be post-June 1. But he has been traded to the San Francisco 49ers. I'm joined now by John McMullen, the number one Eagles beat reporter in town. Give him a follow at JF McMullen. John, what's your initial reaction to that when you hear, we talked a lot about Bryce Huff this morning, John, on Birds 365, and here we are on Friday afternoon. He's been traded to the 49ers.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that term. They're finalizing to make the deal. So I want to make that clear right off the bat. It's not official yet, but both sides are working toward the trade. It's expected to happen post-June 1st. So it can't happen right away. And anytime there's timing, things can go off. But, 99% sure they're working. Both sides are working. Huff has already reworked his contract, agreed to make it a little bit easier for the 49ers to make the trade. So all indications are, and when Bryce didn't show up for voluntary work and did some digging and realized he hadn't been there at all, even when the cameras weren't there. It was a pretty clear indication that both sides have agreed to sort of hit the pause button in the Eagles as the Eagles work to get him somewhere else. And San Francisco makes sense because Robert Saleh's out there, returned as the defensive coordinator, obviously was Bryce's head coach with the New York Jets, and that's where he had his best times as a pass rusher. So it makes sense from that perspective. And the Eagles are basically what happened is, and this is according to Field Yates, who got the contract info. So basically, they turned what was $15.8 million of guaranteed money, which was a bonus. They turned that into salary, a base salary, and the Eagles are taking on $9.05 million of that, leaving the 49ers responsible for $7.95 million. So that's how sort of they got it done. It's only described as a mid-round pick, so we don't know exactly what it's going to be. My guess is mid, probably fifth. You probably can't go to 6 and 7 and declare it mid. So, but still, this is pretty impressive, for Howie to pull this off. Now, I don't want to overstate that too much because I know he's going to get the flowers, but obviously the misevaluation of Bryce Huff as a player put him into this position where they had to do it. And we'll see if he can resurrect his career with Saleh in the 49ers. But the Eagles are out of the Bryce Huff business, so I think that'll make a lot of fans excited. Although, again, we talked about it this morning on Birds 365. Very, very light edge room right now for Jeremiah Washburn. And we'll see if another move is in the works somewhere. Eagles do pick up some cap space. I'm still trying to figure out how much and see what it looks like. So I don't have those numbers just yet. But, I already saw one fan say Trey Hendrickson. They always
I'm seeing it everywhere. Trey, John, I'm seeing TJ Watt. All the names are coming up now.
I mean, you're talking about a 30 million plus player. I'm not sure that's
I'm not sure either, but John, we talked about it. That's the player that would make the whole defense make more sense, is if you have Nolan back in that second role, you have Jalix in the third spot. That brings that edge rusher room, John, right where they want it to be coming into this year. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it makes sense.
Well, from a football perspective, it makes sense. From a business perspective, it probably doesn't make sense, and that's the bigger issue. I mean, again, it's not always about the moment. The Eagles know what's coming down the pike with Jalen Carter next year. So, if you think about it from that perspective, let's be kind and say Jalen Carter's getting a $35 million extension. Are you really going to pay one guy $35 million, another guy $30 million? So it's a little bit pie in the sky. I brought up Hendrickson from the standpoint of his current contract is whatever, 17. I don't have it in front of me, 17, 18. Maybe if he's disgruntled and said, I'll go play a year. I'm not going to play in Cincinnati no matter what. I'll go chase a ring for a year, get to free agency, and make my 30+ million next year. Maybe I'll leave that door open, but I don't think, the Eagles are signing any $30 million contracts this late in the offseason.
Probably not, but I'm not going to rule it out just yet. John, just your thoughts on Howie on this move, man. I mean, what seemingly
I'm not giving the flowers. You screwed up on the player.
Well, John, here's the thing.
Down that route.
GM, well, let me finish. Every GM screws up. Not everybody's perfect. You're never going to be perfect. All right. So Howie made a bad evaluation on this player, and it didn't work out. Most GMs, John, would not have been able to turn this into something that gives your team flexibility, options, and the ability, if they want it, to make another move. I think Howie deserves some credit for that. You might not want to give him flowers because the player evaluation was wrong, but I think he deserves some flowers for being able to turn the negative into a positive.
Well, it's always a positive when you can admit a mistake and try to move on as quickly as possible. Yeah, I mean, I know what it conjures up for people, but I don't think it gives them as much flexibility as people think. You do get a pick. You do have to spend some money, which is new for the Eagles. So it is a bit of a salary dump. They're taking on $9+ million of his salary this year. So it is more of that NBA sort of baseball mentality of we'll pay some money to get the guy out of here and try to save it that way. So I do agree that, look, if you decide you made a mistake, it's better to move on than to just, stick him in the corner for 2 years. I'll agree with that part of it. But, Howie's reputation is what it is. It's deserved. It's well deserved. I've been talking about it for 10 years. But, this is one that did not go right. So I'm not gonna say it's, a huge positive. It didn't go right.
No love for him correcting the move the way he did, John.
I just said I think it's positive that you admit a mistake and move on as quickly as possible. The only way you can correct a mistake is to admit it and move on. That part of it, yes, but the larger, I can see where it's already going. And it's like, wow, how he did that. No, you screwed up on the player. Don't forget that. So, that's the more important part. And it's rare. It's been rare. The Eagles have been on quite a run when it comes to talent evaluation. This is one that they didn't get right, and it's clear that Vic Fangio didn't want to play this player. So if that's the case, you got to move on, and I think that's the positive part of it. You move on, you admit the mistake, you try to go in different directions, and again, you don't have a disgruntled player in the corner. So I think that part of it's positive, but I've already, been on social media and everybody's given the flowers, and I'm like, come on, guys, you recognize what put him in this position to do this.
Yeah, but the problem with that, the only reason I disagree with you on this is that, like, what else has Howie missed at? And no GM shoots 100%, and even the best don't shoot 100%. So he had a big miss. He hasn't had many of them recently. I'm giving him a little bit of lenience on the miss.
Yeah, that's fine. Just don't go overboard. That's all I'm saying.
All right, John, that's edge rusher room now. Post Bryce Huff. We already talked about some of the big names. I know they're probably unlikely, but there is some part of me that feels like they could be. What do you think of this edge rusher room now post Bryce Huff? We already talked about how thin it was. They got to do something, right, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think they were going into the season with Bryce Huff involved. I think they needed to improve the situation. I think it's clear if there's one aspect of the team that could derail the season, the edge group is probably it. As Nolan Smith rehabs from his torn triceps, and we got to see the group at OTAs this week, and it just really struck you just how light it is, how precarious it is if something happens to Nolan Smith in the season. Jalen Hunt, Azeez Ojulari, Josh Uche. It's probably good news for Azeez Ojulari and Josh Uche, but you would like to have a Trey Hendrickson, that's for sure. You'd like to have a TJ Watt, that's for sure. But the Eagles are not in a position. We've already been through this with Myles Garrett, and that's, they're not in a position at this point to take on a $30 million contract.
Is that all because of future, you think? Like all because of who they have to pay upcoming?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Front load that deal, Howie. Get it done, baby. And it'll be off the books in 2 years like he usually gets it done. Come on, Johnny Mac. I can see the glimmer at the end of the tunnel in the edge rushing department.
The only way I see it is if Hendrickson, like I said, wants to go ring shopping for a year and agrees to play in Philadelphia, but not Cincinnati for 1 year for 17, 18, whatever he's set to make this year. Multiple years at $35 million a year. Even with all the void years, that's not the position they want to be in, because understand it's about, and we've been talking about this all year, it's more about cash than cap with the Eagles. And right now, that's a big part of this trade.
Yeah, they shelled out $9 million, right?
Well, essentially they got $7.95 million that San Francisco is paying in cash. They get that, so as sort of cash relief. So that's a big part of this deal as well. To try to accumulate the cash. Not only, we start with Jalen Carter. They already got Cam Jurgens done. Reed Blankenship's coming up. Nolan Smith is coming up after this season as well, if he continues to play at a high level. And then Quinyon Cooper. The Eagles have been very disciplined to this point with that in mind. I don't think it's going to change and TJ Watt, I don't, TJ Watt's got to be over 30 at this point. But they gotta add something.
TJ's 30. He'll be 31 in October. All right, John. Howie wasn't the only one wrong about Bryce Huff. I'll say that. I was wrong about him. I thought he was going to be a contributor. You were wrong about him. You thought he was going to be a contributor. And many people who might not admit that they were wrong about him were also wrong about him. But the book is now officially closed on Bryce Huff. What do you have? 2 total sacks here in Philadelphia for the contract he signed?
I believe 2.5.
2.5. 2.5 for Bryce Huff. We were wrong on him, J-Mac.
Yeah, well, partially because I trusted Howie. So,
right.
There were, there were 4 or 5 teams that were going heavily after Bryce Huff in free agency. So it wasn't just the Eagles, but, and maybe, we'll see. I think Robert Saleh already knows how to use him. I think he's going to look. That's one thing. I think he's going to look a lot better in San Francisco than he looked here.
I happen to agree with you on that. Different role there, I'm sure, and I'm sure Robert will know how to use it. All right, Johnny Mac, great stuff today, brother. If you're back home, I'm going to try and get you on the National Football Show for a quick hit about the Bryce Huff trade. But thanks for checking in on a Football Friday here, Football 24/7. Johnny Mac, your final thoughts on Bryce Huff dished out post June 1 is what it looks like it will be now.
Yeah, it became clear, as I said, as the OTA started, and we became aware that he hadn't been there at all. That it was pretty clear that things were heading in this direction. I just ultimately thought that they would have to release him, and so from that standpoint, to be able. And maybe I should have connected the dots with Robert Saleh, to be able to at least get a draft pick, to be able to at least get a little bit of cash relief, a little bit of cap relief. That's a positive. And it is a positive to admit a mistake and move on as quickly as possible. But yeah, this is the rare miss, at least recently with the Eagles. So, you make the best of a bad situation. I think the Eagles were able to do that. And now looking forward, they got to figure out something to help the edge group. And we'll see what that looks like. Maybe it's just as simple as they think Azeez Ojulari can play and Jalen Hunt is ready. But for as much as they value that position, which was emphasized by how much they paid Bryce Huff last offseason, it would shock me to see them go into the season without a more proven commodity.
TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson, welcome to Philly. Now we'll see what happens. Johnny Mac, great stuff, brother. Appreciate you checking in on this afternoon. We'll talk to you again soon. All right, man. Thank you.
All right, see you.
All right, there's Johnny Mac, John McMullen. Great stuff there from Johnny Mac, man. On the show here today on a Little Football 24/7 edition. Bryce Huff officially traded. Everybody's jacked up about it. I'm pretty jacked up about it. I happen to think that Howie could be moving and shaking and baking here. I mean, if he wants to compete in 25, look for Roseman to make a move here. I get John saying this was a miss by Howie, but for any of us to expect Howie to hit on 100% of the moves is not only not going to happen, but it's stupid. It doesn't make sense. There's no GM in the history of professional sports who hits at that clip. So this was Howie's miss. It was really his only miss in the last couple of years. Now, maybe there's a couple other small ones, late draft picks or something, but his only real miss. And the way he corrects it puts the Eagles in a position of power, gives them options, gives them versatility, gives them a little bit more cap space. I mean, who moves like that, guys? Who else makes bad decisions and corrects them this way? And I get what John's saying. What are you giving someone credit for correcting the mistake wrong? Well, what's the alternative? Just live with all the bad decisions that we make and don't do anything to correct them and wait for them to fall off the books? That's what the other 31 GMs do. Howie says, I messed this up. Bad move. Let's get ahead of it. Let's pay him $9 million up front. Let's clear up some cap space. Get him out of here for a late round pick. Who cares what we get back? And let's give us some more options. It's. I think it's a masterful move. You're not going to hit 100% of the time. So I get the people who are like, well, he missed. Why are you giving him praise? I get it. I'm giving him praise for the way he handled missing. All right. Not all misses are created equal, and Howie just gives himself that room to shake and bake. Well done. I'll take a couple of comments, man, before we get out of here. The National Football Show is live right now, also on JAKIB Sports. All you viewers will be redirected over there when we're all done. And then I'm trying to get Johnny Mac on for 4:30 on the National Football Show as well. Take a couple of comments from the great people. Andrew Jackson checks in. Yes, if Howie is no longer afraid of admitting the mistakes, is like taking another step forward. Move on and let's roll. I agree, brother. He showed this, though, for a couple years now. It started with the Rager pick was kind of the last domino where Howie didn't just say, I'm going to correct the Jalen Rager pick. I'm going to make the best wide receiver room in football. All right? And now you've seen how some of that is kind of formulated into what the roster that we have today, which is obviously one of the best rosters in football. Deshae, $40 million free this year. Deshae, what do you think they're doing, brother? I think they're going to make a splash. I'm not sure where it is. I think it's an edge rusher. We'll see what they're doing. I think Howie will use some of that. Mad Bird says Howie needs a statue. Howie's unbelievable, man. Howie is top of his craft. And not only is he top of his craft, he is constantly looking at how to get better. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at the actions of what he does. Look at the way he does his job. Look at the way he performs as a general manager as compared to the other general managers in the league. Even the other great general managers in the league, like Les Snead, like Eric DeCosta, like Brad Holmes in Detroit. These are all great GMs. None of them exploit, take advantage, and make consistent, good, forward-thinking moves like Howie does. They just don't. We get the best GM in football, and to be honest with you guys, I don't think it's close anymore. I don't think number 2 is close. I don't think he's in the same arena. He's not operating like Howie Roseman is, and this front office deserves a lot of credit, turning a negative into a big positive here for the Birds. I'm super pumped. You can tell it's a football Friday. I'm jacked up. Whole family's in town. Eagles make a trade, and it's a good one. All right, so great stuff there for the Eagles. I'm going to get out of here. Make sure you guys go check out the National Football Show. Dan Cilio is giving his breakdown on the move right now over there. I'll be on his show at 3:30, so about an hour from now. And then I'm hoping to have John McMullen on there at 4:30 to give his breakdown as well. One last time for the details. All right, I see Zeal saying isn't there the details. Basically, what the Eagles did today. We don't know what the pick they got back was. It's mid-round is what it's talked about. All right, unless there's been an update I haven't seen since I've been on the air. All right, but what they did was they converted the money to a base salary. So the $17 million or whatever it was that he was owed. All right, so I think it was $17 million. Then they converted $9 million of that to a signing bonus that they just paid him. All right, that's what the Eagles ate. That allowed San Francisco to take on the remaining $7.95 million. Eagles took $9.05 million, and they got the rest of the contract off the book. So basically, they paid the $9 million up front. They cleared it from the books. They cleared the cap space that he was eating up, and they wiped him off the books. And they did it for a mid-round pick. So they basically ate $9 million to admit they were wrong and create leverage for the team. I mean, this is smart, guys. You were eating that $9 million anyway. So for all the nerds who are going to come and say, oh, you ate $9 million, another $9 million on top of the 17, you were eating it anyway. Regardless of what you did with the player already under contract, you were eating that $9 million. Now you got space. Now you got flexibility. Now you got moves. You got options. You got a bunch of different things you can do. All right. And Zeal, you're 100% right. Nice to have an owner like Lurie to write $9 million checks. Yes. Yes, you need the owner to be able to do that as well. So, Howie, again, he's here. Everyone else is down here. Everyone else is clumped up down here. It's not close. Thank you all for checking in today. A great little episode here of Football 24/7. Bryce Huff, later, brother. You did absolutely nothing, but he will get a Super Bowl ring, which is pretty funny. Thank you all for tuning in. Hit the like button, and I'll see you next time, everybody.
EAGLES, Eagles.